Hi, and welcome to Harry Potter and the Totally Normal Hangout. This is episode 4, where we are discussing Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Tonight we're doing chapters 11 through 17. So we're going to be talking about that. My name is Laura, and tonight I am drinking, I'm drinking two things because I like to double fist it. So tonight I'm drinking some Polar Seltzer water. This is one of the holiday flavors, cranberry cider. And I'm also drinking some scotch. This is the White Walker by Johnny Walker. This is the limited edition Game of Thrones one. If you're a scotch drinker, get this. It's so good. So what we're going to do is we're going to do our quick spell question of the week. And that question this week is that if you were a teacher at Hogwarts, which subject would you teach and why? So I'm going to let the others think on that while you ask us our questions, your questions rather, on all of our socials. So you can find us on Twitter and YouTube and Instagram. Check out the hashtag TNTalksHP. My answer to the question of the week, which is what subject would I teach and why, is care of magical creatures. I've always wanted to be a veterinarian until I realized how much student loan debt I would have. So when I was a kid, that was what I thought. And then I got into the field and spent 17 years as a veterinary technician. So I'm retired now, thank God. But I've met a lot of magical creatures, dogs, cats, snakes, rodents, goats, but sadly no unicorns or threstles. I don't know how to say that. It's a lot of scotch. So I would like to really teach that subject if I could. That would be my ultimate goal. So Emily, what subject would you teach and why? And what are you drinking tonight?
Hi, everybody. Tonight I am drinking one of the new LaCroix. It is the Cerise Limon. I'm probably saying that a lot wrong. It's the cherry lime curate version. It's one of the new special holiday versions, I think. And you are going to find this out a lot tonight. But I would teach History of Magic. Here's my textbook. I will be referencing it a lot tonight. So the second that Professor Binns died, he fell asleep, died in his sleep, and got up as a ghost and continued teaching. I'm sorry, he would have been out. Where was the Board of Governors on that? Because I don't care. A ghost, yes, I could still teach at Hogwarts, but those kids, they sleep through that class. But I would be sure that the Goblin Rebellion of 1612 or the Giant Wars was taught with feeling, and the students would love that class and not, I would make it fascinating. So that's what I would do. Jamie, what's your class?
All right. First of all, I have my trusty tea, as always, but I don't know if you can tell, but I have my little cauldron mug that I got from the Wizarding World in Orlando. I love it. This is like my favorite mug. It's so much fun. I would teach potions because I feel like I don't know why, but I have this feeling that potions is almost kind of like cooking in the Wizarding World, because like obviously there are recipes that you follow, but some people just, you have to have a good feel for it. Like there's the thing in Half-Blood Prince where Harry is like riffing with the Half-Blood Prince's new recipe, and Hermione's like, no, you can't do that, the recipe says to do this and whatever. But some people just have a good instinct for the way these things go together. And I feel like just the way the class is set up with everyone around their little cauldrons, that there's more of an opportunity to be like one-on-one with the students, and you can really I don't know, it seems very just kind of cozy and whatever to me. And plus there would be a teacher who was not Snape teaching potions, so that's always good. The less of him we can get wherever is, everyone is better off. So, Zanib, why don't you tell us what you would teach, what you are drinking tonight or this morning for you? Probably coffee or something caffeinated.
Hey everyone. So yeah, it's 6 a.m. over here. I'm in Pakistan and it's great. It's just like really, really chilly. So I'm drinking again, sorry about the I've got a little cold here, but I'm drinking those high C emergency packets because I just want to like get rid of this cold and enjoy my time here. Um, so I thought a lot about this question. I've like really one of the things I loved about the classes is that you can like go through the curriculum. I'm a nerd. I love, being a student. I miss my college days. And I always wanted to be a defense against the dark arts teacher, but then I thought about it and I thought, what if the curse still exists even after Voldemort's death? I was like, you know what? I don't want to be a victim. And I love animals. And ever since Fantastic Beasts, watching both films, I've like, my love for creatures has evolved. So I would love to, if anything, be a magi zoologist who ends up teaching at Hogwarts. Yep.
All right. I am Lorena and I am last. So I am having beer and water tonight. And I brought my magical creature along. It's my Niffler that I got for Christmas. What I would teach would be transfiguration. And I just like the idea of being able to conjure something, which they learn in later years. And I just think it's cool to turn one thing into another thing. And then I also, if I couldn't teach transfiguration, it would be probably charms, kind of for a similar reason where you can modify something just with magic. So that's what I would want to teach.
Very cool. Very cool. I think all of us would be excellent magical creatures and teachers. But for the sake of time, let's not talk our curriculum. I can't talk tonight, you guys. You shouldn't have had me in charge of this.
Really quickly, we've got one of our viewers on YouTube, Rachel. Hi, Rachel. She would probably teach Muggle studies since she knows all the information already. But she also thinks she would like to teach defense against the dark arts. So that's the only one who's responded to the question on YouTube. So
I love it.
I mean, we would make great Muggle studies teachers also, I feel. So
yeah, we're pretty direct on being Muggles, that works for us.
Yeah.
So let's dive on into this book. Okay. Let's do, we're going to start with chapter 11, which is Quidditch. And I'm just going to dive in and say that Quidditch is boring.
Yep.
Reading it, okay, is like reading a massive fight scene in a novel where there's so much going on and there's so much action and things going between characters that you just, at least for me, I just kind of blank it all out and kind of try to cherry pick the things that are happening. In my head, I call it the Transformer syndrome, where you watch Transformers and they're all moving around so fast that you can't even tell what's happening. That's me. I just blank out and just don't even want to deal with it. So this chapter was for me a little bit boring, but I feel like this scene in particular shows you how much of a douchebag Snape has been this entire book, because if he hadn't been so awful to Harry, nobody would have looked at him, nobody would have suspected him, and they could have found out about Quirrell, or as I like to call him, Cue Ball, a whole lot sooner. So they could have taken him out before, things wouldn't have gotten out of hand. So many things could have been just much better had Snape not been an ass, but Snape's got a Snape. Jamie, what did you think about this chapter?
Well, I agree about Quidditch. I am not really a fan of Quidditch either. And I don't know if it's because generally I don't really care about sports that much anyway, but I feel like it's kind of like you said, a fight scene. I feel like it's like a car chase in action movies. Like it's there it's happening. I feel like there are very few good car chases in movies, and it's, you know, you just sit there and you watch it happen and then it's over. There are a couple times in the series where the Quidditch games actually mean something plot-wise, but not a ton, and definitely not this time. It's just Harry's at Quidditch and then whatever. And I mean, I guess it gives us the plot point of, you know, Snape tries to save Harry from, you know, keep him on the broom and all that stuff, which is great. Like, you don't let him die, but still, you don't really get a gold star for not letting a kid die. Like, that's basic. That's basic humanity. Like, he barely clears the bar. So for me, I kind of did not really pick up a ton on the Quidditch. My things that I more picked up on were strange little character things, like Harry just decides he's going to go waltzing into the teacher's lounge. Like, are you kidding me? You are 11 years old and you are just going to go, you want to talk to somebody, so you're just going to go in there. It's kind of setting his Gryffindor qualities early. And also, Filch is giving Snape bandages for his legs, which seemed crazy to me. Like, a Band-Aid? Really? You got to go to Madame Pomfrey. She can fix it in 2 seconds. What are you wasting your time with Filch for? I don't know. It just...
I mean, he's, especially because he's a squib, and, like, there's no relationship, especially because of how high and mighty Snape is and would be. Like, I don't think he would have wasted his time with Filch on that at all. Like, that seems like it bothered me so much. I was like, this is so not plausible.
No. Right, because you can tell Madame Pomfrey anything happened and she'll just fix it in a couple seconds. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess the only thing would be if Madame Pomfrey was like not in on Fluffy's existence, whereas Filch probably was, since he's the caretaker. But I mean, why wouldn't you go to like some Dumbledore to fix your leg? I would have to
imagine that Snape can do more for himself than Filch can do by just giving him Band-Aids.
Maybe he needed a potions master.
No, right. He's a potion master, so you think he'd like create his own like healing paste or, you know, something, but
right, he could brew something up in a couple minutes that he could just heal it. I don't know.
Yeah. No, out of like every living and even like dead being that's inside of Hogwarts, I would go to Peeves before I went to Filch to take care of my bandage needs. Like, come on.
Right. Honestly, Filch is terrible. He does nothing.
He's just an awful, awful person. Like, no compassion in that man at all. Like, why would you do that?
So I since we're talking about Snape doing weird things, I have to just say, like, why didn't Snape tell Dumbledore, like, Quirrell, or maybe someone in my booth I was sitting around, like, near, was cursing Harry's broom, who we both secretly know were protecting to lead to slaughter one day. Like, why would he not, like, Quirrell is one of the teachers protecting the stone. Like, why would he not be like, hey, by the way, we have an issue that probably should be looked at.
Right.
You know, instead of like, hey, let me ref the next game, okay? Like, that will help me save Harry, and like, you won't have to be involved. No, like, fire Quirrell. Voldemort's on the back of his head. Let's just like look under the turban for once. It smells bad, I know, but
yeah, in these last couple chapters, I'm definitely wondering how much Dumbledore knew and when he knew it, and how much he kind of just allowed to let unfold. Like, there's something that he says, I think, to Hermione in the last chapter, how like she ran into him on the way out of, you know, the thing, and he was on his way in, and it's like, oh, he knows about such and such. I don't know. It seems like he kind of knew that Harry knew some stuff and just kind of let some things happen, which seems crazy to me because Harry is 11 years old. But yeah, why aren't the adults dealing with Quirrell earlier on? Because they had to have their suspicions.
We are saying this, forgetting that Dumbledore's the person who left a 1-year-old on a doorstep in the middle of the night on Halloween. So
yeah, he's like, it'll probably be fine. Let's see what happens.
I don't think he matured in 11 years.
Yeah, no,
personally.
Emily, how did you feel about this chapter?
Like you guys, Quidditch is so not my sport, and I pulled out Quidditch Through the Ages, my whatever the comic relief chapter. It's only 55 pages long, and let's just say that if you can do the history of Quidditch in 55 pages, it's probably not that big of a sport.
Right.
But I was just like, this is the most messed up sport where it's like, it's the oldest position in Quidditch. What do you mean it's the oldest position? Like, did you keep adding, positions because it was getting more and more confusing? Let's add a basket. This year we added a basket. This year we added this. And I just was like, I bought this the year they came out because I was like, I must have. And the pricing on the bottom, it says 14 sickles and 3 nuts, the equivalent of $3.99 US dollars. So just FYI, if you're looking for the conversion rate. So anyway, I had to pull that out for posterity's sake.
Emily, I have a quick question about that.
Yes.
What chapter and or page in that book does it confirm my theory about the fairies being stuck inside the snitches?
I will show you where it talks about the snitches, and it shows figure B. Where we go. The golden snidget is today a protected species, but at the time, golden snidgets were common in Northern Europe, though difficult to detect by muggles because of their aptitude at hiding and their very great speed. It is a small little bird. It is not a fairy. It is a little bird.
Oh.
So
100%.
that's what they look like.
I totally believe that they are now a protected species. However, I am 1,000% convinced it is now a fairy stuck inside a golden ball, inside a prison of hope.
Yeah. So that's page 10, chapter 4, where it talks about this. Yeah, I'm. Oh, equivalence. I'll have to reread chapter 4 again.
Okay.
History of Magic students, your lesson for today is to write one parchment on Laura's theory about the. See, my classes would be really fun. Disprove Laura's theory that fairies are not in the golden snitch.
That's an
Also,
impossible task.
While we're talking about Quidditch, I feel like my deal with them is that the games seem like they are so short. And I don't know if that's how they are just written and it's implied that they go longer, but I feel like it happens on the weekend. Everybody goes out there, they get in the stands, and they watch like a 5-minute game, and then everybody goes back inside.
No, the first game's like 3 hours or something.
Is it?
Yeah, because they play Slytherin, is it? They keep like scoring and then knocking people off their brooms and like hitting people with bludgers, and that game went on a while. And then Harry sees this snitch and then he doesn't catch it, and then he starts getting jinxed. His broom does. Okay. So
I feel like
once the broom jinx happens, that becomes the plot point, obviously.
Okay. Yeah, I think I just don't have a good sense of time on the game.
But a Quidditch game can go on forever. It's like it goes until the snitch is caught.
It can, but they never read that way to me.
Like
maybe 10, you just skip it.
In chapter 10, Wood said it went on. The longest game lasted for 3 months.
That's what I thought, like 3 months. Because I got the impression that it was kind of like cricket, where it was like you just played until it was done, regardless of how long, which I feel like is like the American version of Monopoly. Like you just keep going until someone goes bankrupt.
Like I know they can go on for a long time, but I just feel like in the books they never really read like they're all that long.
But
other
can
than
you
like
imagine reading it or writing
no,
that?
right? Like I get it, but I don't know.
I think this
I
isn't
I
your
just
problem,
don't-
Jamie.
Yeah, I feel like I just don't really like reading about Quidditch because other than like, oh, it went on for a while, but we don't really read it. So then what's the point? I don't know.
I don't love Quidditch, but I don't hate Quidditch.
Okay.
And I really enjoyed Dean Thomas yelling red card.
I think it's a
during
shame that this is the only sport that they have. Because like I would not really want to go watch Quidditch if I were there. And so that's it. That's like the only school-wide activity that they have. You can go watch this stupid game.
Toad Chorus. You could do Toad Chorus.
And we've also we've discussed how trash their jelly beans are.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, like I feel like their sport would also be awful because look at the jelly beans that they have to eat. And their frogs, their chocolate frogs can just jump and fly away. Like being a wizard and or a witch is not an easy task. You have a lot of trials that you have to go through.
Yeah.
Moving on. Let's go to chapter 12. Yes. The mirror, and you guys are going to have to help me on this one. Is it Earsaid?
Yes.
Sweet. So to me, the thought of little Harry Potter, 11 years old, sitting in front of that mirror just to catch a glimpse of his parents it just breaks your heart. So, and that kind of tells you like how hard it's been for Harry, for him growing up, because kind of at this point in the book, I'm like, I get it that Harry's had a tough life, but he's kind of annoying as well. Like, you need to calm down. You've been a wizard for like 2 months. But also then you have this part where you're like, oh my God, this poor kid. Like, the Dursleys never even gave him a picture of his parents or told him what they looked like. Like, that's awful. And like, as a mom, to be so completely erased from your child's life post-mortem is gut-wrenching, because the one thing that you think about is if something happened to me, at least my family, my friends, my loved ones would be able to tell my son, like, your mom was a funny jerk. You know what I mean? Like, she wore weird glasses. You know, like, they'd be able to talk to him about me. And this part of the book just hit me really hard. And this is the first moment in the book where we really get a sense that Dumbledore is really following Harry's kind of path through Hogwarts, that he is keeping an eye on him. And it's kind of a bonding moment for him and Harry that kind of starts to build that relationship that they have throughout all of the books. And it also lets you know, like, as we know it, because we know it happens, that Dumbledore is a great wizard and he does have this great bond with Harry, but he's also kind of a dick because he's fully manipulating Harry and putting him in danger over and over again. Because it's my opinion, and I could be wrong, and if I am wrong, correct me on this, that at this point, Dumbledore has to know that Harry is putting himself in danger, trying to figure out what the three-headed dog is hiding, what's going on, who Nicholas is, like all this stuff. And Dumbledore has to know it because he knows that, first of all, clearly he knows that Harry has the cloak because he gave it to him, but also he knows that he's wandering out at night. So I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like he knows what's happening and he kind of just lets it happen, but for no good reason. There's no valid reason to let this stuff happen. But I don't know. This chapter hit hard for me in some places, and then in other places it just kind of grinded my gears a little bit. But Emily, what did you think of this chapter?
Well, like you said, you thought Dumbledore has to know, where he said, I don't need a cloak to make myself invisible. So that makes me definitely think that he knew about other things that were going on. So I agree that he had to know. As I've been sharing in the past, you were saying that there were certain parts that just gutted you, and I'm trying to make sure it's not a glare. But there's this it's Harry just looking in the mirror, and he's just so like despondent, looking and touching the mirror, that I was just like, oh my gosh, it's so sad. But then there's another one where he's like seated underneath the there's such a glare underneath the table talking to Dumbledore, and I'm just like, this is just a cute little picture. And I'm like, I wish you guys could see these images. They're just so great in this illustrated version. And I was just like, here he is, Dumbledore, just on the floor right next to him, talking to him through this little part. And I was just like, okay, knowing all these other things, if I had had this version reading this for the first time, this endears me to Dumbledore. No, but we know all these other things, and I'm just torn because we know what we know about Dumbledore at this point. But seeing this, Dumbledore is like, you can't sit here and waste your life away looking in the mirror for things that cannot be. And like you, there were some things that just were gutted by that. So, Jamie,
I think, well, because all of those things that you both just said were true, it made me kind of annoyed again. And I know I bitched about it in the Fantastic Beasts episode, but that what Dumbledore saw in the mirror for so long was his stupid ex-boyfriend. I mean, we don't know what he sees in the mirror at this point because he has had his duel with Grindelwald at this point. That's all over. So who knows what he could see. Hopefully it's something better. But for this poor 11-year-old kid to be seeing his family, which, like you said, he didn't even know what they looked like before. And Dumbledore was in his 40s, like some grown-ass man, and all he was seeing in the mirror was Grindelwald. It was a little. I'm still always annoyed by it. But we did get a lighter moment where Fred and George were throwing snowballs at the back of Quirrell's turban, which means they were inadvertently hitting Voldemort in the face, which I thought was hilarious. But I mean, a bulk of the chapter was the Mirror of Erised stuff. So, Zani, what about you?
This was a very interesting chapter for me. Like from chapter 4 and onwards, you are like exposed to the wizarding world, and you get like this plethora of information. And when you really look at it from like an outsider's perspective, even with like his newfound identity as the boy who lived, and like the wealth and like the ability to do magic, the one thing that Harry really desires is a loving family. And it's like it's crushing to know that an 11-year-old kid even has to like want to feel loved, because it's like, you're a kid, you should be loved. At the same time, it's like it makes his character so much more relatable. And it's like I fell in love with him even more, because I thought, all I want to do is give you a big hug and bake you cookies and, chocolate milk. But at the same time, it's like, you definitely get the sense of his main goal from here on outwards. It's like having a group of, not just blood related, but like friends and family who he can really count on and love, and have that like mutual support. And so, unfortunately, he has to like go back to the Dursleys at the end of the school year. But for me, I think that this was a really great opportunity for me as a reader to really gain some insight on his desire, but at the same time, it's like throughout the remaining books, it's like the main kind of factor, like in the back of his head, it's like, I want a good family, I want to be loved.
Yeah, I really like that element of this chapter, and I thought that you see that, and he has not just his parents like in the film, but actually his full extended family is what he sees in the mirror. So it's like, oh, you had all of these people who you could have known, or in some way, I guess they're all dead since none of them took them, but
Yeah.
But I did like that we get the sense of the Weasleys being kind of that family coming in for Harry, especially with the sweaters with Ron telling his mom that like, oh, Harry doesn't expect to get any gifts. So she like knits him a sweater that she only knits her kids. I just thought that was such a sweet, I mean, you know, it's very Molly, but the fact that Ron thought to tell his mom that, I think is really indicative of like the kind of person Ron even is, and that he is a good best friend to have. Even if he's kind of dumb and really like slow to learn things and lazy to learn things, he's still like has a good, he sees things sometimes that like like what you would want your friend to really know, but wouldn't express to them, you know, because Harry doesn't want to be like, oh, I'm a big loser and have no family and no one's sending me anything. But Ron kind of senses that and then susses it out of him and then takes that extra step to tell his mom. And then I did like that in the books, they don't all have the initial on their sweater. It's just like Fred and George because she can't tell them apart. So that made me happy because it'd be kind of weird to get the same sweater every year with your initial, like you can't remember your name or something. I don't know. It'd just be weird. If it was all a W, okay, but like it's not. So that made me happy. And I don't really have much else to add about the mirror, other than I did like that we got to see the disillusionment charm in action. And there's a lot of references to occlumency in here without mentioning the word. But they don't actually say, I don't think he says like Dumbledore uses it. It's always in regards to Snape, but obviously Dumbledore's using it on Harry at this point. So yeah.
Well, talking about Ron, it's also the fact that he sees what he sees in the mirror is kind of a good character point for things he will do later on. Because he's the last boy. He always feels looked over. And some of the things that he does later, while kind of annoying, you do understand where that comes from, at least.
Yeah.
I think there was
true.
one thing I wanted to say about the sweater. Harry's sweater was emerald green, which I thought was interesting because I know they didn't make any big deal out of it, but I would have said something if I were Ron. Why did she give you a sweater in Slytherin colors or something along those lines? Like, I mean, that would have been something I would have thought because I was surprised it was emerald green. And they don't carry that over in the movies, but I was like, oh wait, it's emerald green. What?
I thought she did it because it would match his eyes.
That's what I thought too, that it was matching his and his mom's eyes.
Yeah. Well, I didn't, I might have just, I just heard the color and I was like, oh, that stood out to me. So, anyway, I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah, because he's not going to want to wear that like around at school because it's going to be all Slytherin. So
right.
Because
he's super prejudiced. Well, I mean, this entire book is super prejudiced against Slytherins.
It is.
You really get the feeling in this book, and it like just. This is the first time I read this book, and I couldn't tell you how many years. So just this book, reading it, you're like, man, you would almost think that J.K. Rowling hates Slytherins with the way that she talks about them. Like, come on now.
And not all Slytherins are bad.
No. There are many Slytherins who are just going about their damn day, trying to go to school and learn.
Right.
And
they just, they want to be
dragged down by the couple bad apples.
Exactly. But yeah, I definitely think that this chapter is a huge shout out to Mrs. Weasley and how amazing that she is as a mom, because to pick up on that, like, oh, his parents aren't around and, he was by himself on the train platform. Let's give him a family sweater. That is like, that's so cool.
Especially because they don't have very much themselves.
Exactly.
So for them to still, include Harry and all of that.
Yeah, to do something. And then this is another thing that occurred to me while we were talking, and I want to get the group's opinion on this. So we know now that Dumbledore gave Harry the cloak. We also know now that Dumbledore was waiting in that room and watching Harry each time he visited the mirror. And he specifically told Harry that he doesn't need a cloak to be invisible. So then why would Harry's dad let Dumbledore borrow it if Dumbledore doesn't even need it to be invisible?
Did he let him borrow it, or did he give it to him for safekeeping?
No, he lets him use it to study the Deathly Hallow.
But then, but why?
Because it's a Deathly Hallow.
I haven't read that. I don't remember. Well, I mean, I've read it years ago.
7. Yeah,
Okay.
It's like really far in.
Oh,
no,
okay.
He's studying all the Hallows.
Gotcha.
And, because that's why he's so fascinated when he gets the ring that he's going to put it on. Because he knows it's one of the Hallows.
I guess there's nothing particularly special about it being a Hallow, because then he gives it to an 11-year-old kid to just like toy around with.
Well, it's Harry's. Harry has ownership of it.
I know, but still, like, you wouldn't give some kid, like, I don't know, like the Declaration of Independence to like doodle on. Like, if it were really this like super, if it had all of these incredible special properties, even if it's Harry's, you would think he would hold on to it for a little bit longer, so he's not just tossing it over to an 11-year-old, because it gets left on the top of the astronomy tower later.
Right.
Like, he's a kid.
And it's gonna get sticky, guys. Okay, kids are inherently sticky, so you're gonna ruin this cloak by giving it to an 11-year-old. I'm telling you that now.
Liquid quality.
It has magical properties.
Sure, it's a self-cleaning magical Deathly Hallow.
It is made by death, okay? So, like, you are giving it a lot of... It would not get dirty. You can't even see it. How's it going to get dirty? It's invisible.
But you can feel it. It's going to get sticky. And you're not even going to know what the stickiness is.
I feel like a dragon could still set it on fire, because they use it to transport Norbert.
Even death cannot find it. So nothing will get on this. And I think because only in use with conjunction with the Elder Wand and the Resurrection Stone would it then become what Lorena is implying. That's when you have all of the, the bigger issues.
You master death.
But I still feel like all the more reason for an 11-year-old to not have it.
But the cloak itself, by itself, is fine.
Yeah.
You need the wand and the Resurrection Stone, which is so far down the road. We still have to get on to chapter 13.
Yes, I know.
I know, but
we're talking about eternal life, guys. So let's talk about Nicholas Flamel.
Yes, let's talk about Nicholas. This is what I have to say about this chapter, which is I don't remember it, and I reread it again today.
You read it twice, and you have nothing.
I've read it twice. I don't have anything. I don't think anything really happened.
The only note I really have about this chapter is that Snape referees a Quidditch match, which I had absolutely no memory of, because I have not read this book in years and years and years. And that's just the idea of him going up to like whoever, like Madam Hooch, I guess, and being like, yeah, you know what? I think I want to referee this one. This way, like, it's just so hysterical to me. He is literally the worst person at that entire school to referee a Quidditch game. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Emily, Zaneeb, what do you think?
Zaneeb, do you want to talk first? Because I want to talk about Nicholas Flamel. It's time for History of Magic, but I'm going to let Zaneeb talk first.
I mean, I felt like this chapter was more of like a filler. It's really about the trio finding out about Flamel, but go Hermione for like making and connecting the dots on, the book that she brings from her dormitory. It's like, I mean, FYI, Harry and Ron would be screwed without her. Like, she, going back to the Quidditch match with the wonky broom, like she was the one who like distracted Snape. She like, first of all, she like attacked a teacher. Like she lit his cloak on fire, and now she's, like helping him understand who Nicholas Flamel is. So I loved that, Hermione definitely starts like building that bond with Harry and Ron. So it's like, yeah, you definitely see a start of a great friendship, since it is, the first book.
Okay. Welcome to class. So Thank you for laughing. So, Nicholas Flamel was a real life person, and he was thought to have been an alchemist, but he didn't actually create the Philosopher's Stone. He was, in fact, a landlord, and some of his sources describe him as a bookseller. He spent his life in Paris and died in 1418. There is an illustration to the Holy Innocents commissioned by Nicholas, and the Flamels are praying at the top beside the saints. So that's here, if we can see that.
Which one is he supposed to be?
In the center. I don't know how close I'm getting.
Right on the crack of the book? That's
I
a
know.
terrible placement for him.
I know, it's terrible. So, okay. But the real Nicholas Flamel was buried in the church of Saint Jacques de la Boucherie in Paris. His grave was marked by this medieval tombstone, which is 58 centimeters high and inscribed in French. The top of the tombstone shows Christ with Saints Peter and Paul, along with the sun and moon. The deceased Flamel is shown underneath the inscription. So 58 centimeters is what? Like 5 inches? It's a tiny little headstone. But when they found this headstone, it was being used as a cutting board.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, so it's in some museum. When they found it, they were like, "What are you doing?" And they rescued it, and it's now in some museum.
It's just under 2 feet. Is 58 centimeters.
58 centimeters
according to my measuring tape.
That's a good sized cutting board.
So how did he get associated with all this magical business?
He was said to have been an alchemist.
Oh, okay.
During that time. So
it's just this rumor about him that became like this folklorish kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but yeah, his wife really was Perenelle.
Oh.
So that was also an accurate factual statement. So I get it. He really did live and there. So I find it odd that a chocolate frog card was really the only place that someone as renowned as this would be mentioned. I mean,
right, because they talked about looking in a lot of books and they never came across him. And then it was only after he saw it on the chocolate frog card that Hermione remembered it. You would think his name would be all over the place.
Why wouldn't he have his own chocolate frog? One wonders.
Right?
Right. He's a footnote on someone else's chocolate frog card, and that's how they figure out who he is.
God, that is a slap in the face if there ever was one. Maybe he wasn't a pleasant person in life.
But he seemed adorable.
In Harry Potter canon, he's a delight.
Yeah. I don't know. That's rough. Yeah.
He was
Thank you. You all get top marks in History of Magic.
He was one of the only things that we all loved about Crimes of Grindelwald.
That's true. That's true. Lorena, I want to hear your thoughts on this with Snape.
Yeah, I don't have a ton more than what's been said, but I really just, similar to Jamie, don't get why Snape reffed this match. Like, as I previously mentioned, like, why would he not just be like, hey, Quirrell was cursing the broom, blah, blah, blah. But then, like, also, why is he so pissy? Like, you're refereeing a match. The whole point of you doing this is to stop Quirrell from, like, killing Harry, because he needs to be killed later properly by Voldemort, not by half Voldemort. And, like, why, just, like, how does no one understand? How did none of the adults know more of what's going on? Like, I mean, I guess they just don't want to believe it, right? But it just is, like, weird. The whole thing's weird. And then this Quidditch match, like, just doesn't even make sense. Like, it's like, okay, you need to catch it soon, but, you gotta... It was just, like, so weird, like such a weird scene. It's 5 minutes long, yet Hufflepuff receives like 10 fouls in their favor because Snape's so biased against Gryffindor that he's just like, you know what, you exist, so you have a foul. Like, that's my feelings on this. Like, why is he allowed to ref this? Why isn't Madam Hooch like, okay, well, that was BS, so we're gonna replay that match? Because Snape is just totally not qualified to ref this. Like, I don't understand. I don't understand how he got this.
They're hanging on by a thread here. Some of the decisions that are made at this school are
well, we're about to get to a worse decision in the next chapter. So I'm done with Snape. Let's move on.
I know.
To Hagrid.
Okay, so let's move on to chapter 14. So chapter 14, I'm probably going to mess this up. Norbert, the Norwegian Ridgeback.
Yes.
Okay. So my problem is, first of all, that I always see Rhodesian Ridgeback, which is a lion hound from Africa. So for me, every time I read this and I think about it, I'm like, it's a dog, not a dragon, but that's a me thing. I think Norbert's a great character, and I wish we had more of him because I like destruction and I also like dragons. And as much as I love Hagrid, I think that I love movie Hagrid more than book Hagrid, because book Hagrid is
an idiot.
He's dumb.
Yeah, he's real dumb.
He's dumb, but he's also, it's a little bit questionable why he forms such a tight friendship with these children, because he's supposed to be like, he's the gameskeeper, right? Like, he's supposed to be a professional at this school. And, you know, I don't know, wizarding school must be a lot different than public school in America, because where I went to school, if the teacher lived on campus, we would not be allowed to go into their house. So I don't know, to even send the note to Harry to say, hey, the dragon egg is hatching, seems like an epically awful idea. And I don't understand why. Like, what was the purpose of them even knowing that Hagrid got a dragon? Like, I get that it moves the plot along, that, oh, he was at this game and he got the egg and all this stuff and it was Quirrell in the end, but I don't know. It just seems a little clunky to me. And Hagrid bothers me.
Right. It serves the plot in that way, but it does not serve his character at all. Because, like, I get that he was, like, expelled, so he didn't finish school, but he's still an adult man. So he should still be able to tell that 11-year-old children should not be involved in this in any way whatsoever. Like, the dragon, it bites Ron. He gets like this terrible infection in his hand. Like, and then it's illegal, and somehow he lets them take the dragon up to the top of the astronomy tower. Like, it's just, he should know better as a professional at this school that this is in no way okay. And it does kind of call it, like, he's the sweetest guy, he's the best, and you love him, but it does kind of make you wonder why Dumbledore trusts him with so much, because from this chapter specifically, it makes him seem like Dumbledore is unwise to do that, because he seems unable to handle even the most basic things on his own. He's like leaning on these kids for emotional support about this stupid illegal dragon that he won when he was drunk at a poker game it's just, I don't know. Yeah, I did not come out of this chapter feeling super good about Hagrid.
No, this chapter was problematic in even that, like, J.K. Rowling, while she was writing it, was like, oh, shit, there's a plot hole. Like, how am I going to fill this? You know what? I'm going to write, like, how the Hermione and Harry got that caged toddler-aged dragon, which is bigger than the size of a wooden hut that someone lives in that has a bedroom and a room, up the hill, into the castle, over a moat, up at least 9 floors of stairs. Like, yeah, they'll just never know. Well, they'll never know because they couldn't have done it. They're 11. They couldn't have carried this heavy dragon. They don't know any kind of charm to help them. They're 11 years old. Like, good writing.
Glad you saw your error. Guardian Leviosa would not have worked on the dragon?
I am. I'm telling you that because she didn't use it. Did you see Hermione use it? She sure didn't. So
Do you know what this part of the book reminds me of? I don't know how many other people here ever read Outlander.
Sorry.
There's that. And I'm 99% sure I shouldn't say this because I'm going to get a lot of Outlander fans against me. But I don't know. There's this little book called Outlander that we sometimes talk about on That's Normal. And this reminds me of the very first book when Diana Gabaldon, which I always say wrong, talks about how Claire sees the Loch Ness Monster. And you're just
Seriously?
like, yes. It's the dumbest part of pretty much the entire series because you're like, what? Okay, she came through the stones. She traveled back through time. I get it. But now she's seeing the Loch Ness Monster.
Did they have that in the show? I haven't seen the show either. Okay.
No, not in the show. I've seen the show.
They cut that out of the show because it was real dumb. Or as like one of my friends like to say, it's a baby writer mistake to just kind of overreach and make these grand, like horrible written blunders. And so unfortunately for her and for J.K. Rowling, it's in print and everybody reads it. But that's what that whole scene reminded me of, because didn't they transport Norbert through the invisibility cloak? So they did. Now they're worried that Ron and Hermione and Harry might not all fit under the cloak, but you were able to fit this giant ass toddler dragon under the cloak? Like, what? No.
Yeah, this whole thing.
Yeah.
And I see, Zanib, your note in here is a good one about how one of Hagrid's biggest flaws is him being super naive. And that's true. I don't know if you want to expand on that, but
yeah, and I think it's like this chapter and the next one, you really get the sense of like how blasé professors are about student safety. And I'm like, did none of them go through training? Like what is this? Like, I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to like quickly think about it, but I remember distinctly Dumbledore saying that Forbidden Forest is forbidden. So why are you taking? I mean, I know, like I'm like skipping ahead to the next chapter, but it's like, you're still responsible for kids. So it just seemed really, I don't know, like on one hand, Hagrid's known to be like this big, lovable giant, but I agree with everyone here. It's just, come on, they're still kids, and you should have thought about this a lot.
He's expected to look after them in the Forbidden Forest in the next chapter when he can barely handle this stupid dragon mess he got himself mixed up in.
Yeah. Yeah. Are we all in agreement? Should we move into the Forbidden Forest, chapter 15?
Yeah,
we're already kind of talking about it, so we might as well.
I just want to say that this moves us in. I really agree with the Malfoys on this matter. Like,
this is one of the only times,
I know they're Nazi supremacists, like blood supremacists, but they're right in this instance. Like, they are right, and I think that when Draco's like, I can't go into the fort. Like, there's werewolves in there. Like, what the hell are you doing? Like, this is not only a bad idea, but like really stupid also at the same time. And it's like, they got in trouble. This chapter really bothered me. They got in trouble for sneaking out, right? Being out after curfew. And then their detention is literally to leave their common room at 11 p.m. alone, unchaperoned, to go downstairs to meet Filch, to go into another location where they're actually not supposed to be in the middle of the night with the guy who got them the detention in the first place. Like, there's no accountability. Like, if I was Draco Malfoy, I'd be like, you know what? Tie me up by those stupid things. Like, Umbridge's detention was actually safer and better than going into the Forbidden Forest to hunt something that has killed a creature so pure. What else would do it than the most evil thing with nothing to lose? Let's expose 4 11-year-old kids to that. And Hagrid in the middle of the night. Like,
Hagrid, who he didn't even complete his schooling.
Right.
So, and they're going into the potentially deadly forest That seems like a great idea for detention. Yeah.
Why wouldn't they do this in the daytime? And how would they know the attack was going to happen again that night, like at 11 p.m.? You know, it's just so ridiculous. Oh, it's so convenient. You know, it's just, really bothers me.
This is one of the only times that I would have a serious problem with that. You know, if you're going to give my kid detention because they broke the rules, fine, whatever. Give them detention, make them do some kind of, you know, mundane, stupid task or whatever. And all the other detentions I feel like that they get in the books are pretty much that. They're just stupid, you know, you go do busy work somewhere for but for this one, you're sending kids, like little kids, out into the forest where there are deadly creatures in the middle of the night with a buffoon.
And I will say, because I was like, I texted Lorena this, and I was like, McGonagall has just gotten so mad at Harry for being out of bed. And she says she has never been so disappointed in Gryffindor, yet she has already been through 5 years of Fred and George. You cannot tell me that Harry was a worse troublemaker than Fred and George. And I was like, wait a second, you're telling me that this one night, students out of bed, it's a boarding school? And I'm sorry, kids get out of bed after curfew, and you cannot tell me that these kids being out of bed has been the worst thing that has happened to Hogwarts in all the years. That when the Marauders were there, that they did things that were this bad. That, you know, I get that, you know, everything that has happened, but being out of bed after curfew is the least of McGonagall's worries. And this is ridiculous that this is where that, you know, so many points were being taken away, and nobody wants to talk to Harry because this is like, they are now pariahs of Gryffindor Tower, and, you know, even Ravenclaw's not speaking to them because they are like, you guys are the worst. But it just is, I can't
believe it's not better safeguarded. Like, I can't believe that the second the fat lady portrait opens, how is there not some kind of, like, not alarm, but, you know, like some kind of thing that goes off that lets the teachers know, oh, there are students out of bed? Like, how do they even make it out to get as far as they do?
And yet it's Filch's job. Students out of bed after midnight, you know.
Right. That's the only safeguard they have, is a squib wandering the halls with his cat to try and randomly find people, you know, wrongdoing.
I don't know. Mrs. Norris is pretty amazing, though. I have to be honest. Like, I really think she's probably the embodiment of my deceased cat, Charles. She's just evil and terrible, but also kind of cool. And I hate how many times Ron talks about wanting to kick her. That's mean.
I know. I thought that. Can we kick her? Like, you're the one breaking the rules, man. Like, I get she's like a mean cat, but come on, that's terrible.
Right. She's literally doing her job. Okay. Her job is to find you out of bed, and you're out of bed. Get over it. Are we ready to go through the trapdoor?
No.
I want to talk about the centaurs.
I want to talk about the centaurs as well.
See, I already forgot about the centaurs. I want to hear about them.
This is one of the biggest missed opportunities for me in the movie. And, like, on a practical sense, I get that must be a very expensive feature to have because you're going to need a lot of CGI and all that stuff. And they don't really do a ton for the plot except exposition, which, by the way, I did look it up. And when the whole Mars is bright tonight thing that a couple of the centaurs say in this, in Order of the Phoenix, Ferenz explains that Mars, bringer of battle, shines brightly above us, suggesting that the fight must soon break out again. So Mars being bright is a little bit of foreshadowing for what's about to go down. But on a much less serious level, the centaurs could have been total studs. And instead, the version they go with in the movie are like, they're kind of creepy looking. They're sort of gross. They're not at all sexy. And I know that these are movies for kids, but I don't care. We deserve some sexy centaurs.
Okay, that wasn't the direction I was gonna go.
Okay, well,
but
then
I'll
it's a good
take
thing
it because the direction I was going was that I thought Ronan and Luna Lovegood would be like super BFFs. Like not lovers. He can still be hot. That's okay. But I just felt like he's just the whole time like, no, Mars is bright tonight. And Hagrid's like, okay, cool. Have you seen anything weird? Like any dead unicorns? Can't say that. And he's like, oh, Mars is bright tonight. He's like, yeah, cool. Like, have you seen anything weird though? Mars is bright tonight. Like he's telling you what's weird, dude. Listen, use your ears. And Luna would have been like, oh, you're right. Mars is bright tonight. And I would,
yeah, she would be on that same wavelength.
Yes.
Yeah.
Missed opportunity. I also don't understand why Ferenz is teaching care of magical creatures and not divination when clearly that's what they do. Like that's what all the centaurs have, a gift of sight and like reading the stars. I just don't understand. Like I understand because there's not a teacher teaching that, but it was just like, why wouldn't they bring in the centaurs to teach something they actually already know as experts? But I'm glad that you've done the research and he does impart that knowledge, which I feel like Emily would do as a teacher, even though it would be out of her scope.
Yes, not my area, but yeah. I won't. I mean, my slight comment was going to be when you said Luna, and I was like, you said not romantically involved. I've discovered weird Harry Potter fanfic ships, and I was like, I don't even want to know if there are fanfic ships of that, so I'm not going to look that up. So,
no,
I'm sure it's there.
I'm sure it's there. I'm not writing it though.
That also begs the question, like, where is the reproductive material on a centaur? Is it like in the back where it is on a regular horse, or like in between the front ones?
I don't want to know.
Let's get into. I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna see if there's fan fiction for it.
All right. I just have to say, Rachel, who was on YouTube comments, has she isn't able, her computer wasn't working, so she's now on text with me because she's my sister. And she said that actually Ferenz did teach divination.
Oh, okay.
So I was wrong. I've only read that book once, book 5. So thank you, Rachel, for correcting me.
Look at that. I like that. Okay.
There are 3 stories in the Ferenz Luna Lovegood tag on Archive of Our Own.
No.
God. Yes.
I was going for Ronan, but I'll take
Ronan. Oh, Ferenz, whatever.
Too relatable.
One of them is rated explicit. I'm not going to read the tags.
No.
But I'm sure that one would get very much into where the genitalia is on the centaur. I'm sure it's in here.
I almost want to read it now just so I know. This is like asking, like, how does a dog wear a pair of pants? Like, I've had this conversation with my family for a really shockingly long amount of time. Like you need to know these things. Once it's in your head, you just gotta know. I might take one for the team on this one and do the deep dive.
And read it.
Deep dive.
Yeah. That'll be your assignment for next time, to look up some centaur erotica and bring back the details.
Oh my God, my parents would be so proud of me right now.
I think Order of the Phoenix, the centaurs are in it a lot. So by Order of the Phoenix, I need to expect you to be an expert.
Yeah.
And they do take Umbridge away, so.
That's right. That's right.
They're the true heroes.
They are. Okay, let's talk about through the trapdoor.
Let's get far away from that.
Really quickly, I'm going to show you the picture that they include in the book.
Wait, is it genitalia?
Is it centaur genitalia?
No, it's fluffy. It's
fluffy.
Oh, look at
So there we go. The three-headed monster.
I love it. Okay, so through the trapdoor.
Does anyone feel kind of bad that poor Fluffy is trapped in this one room all year just because they have to guard this stone? Because pretty much except for the mirror, all the other protections are kind of superfluous. So
1,000%
need to be there.
1,000%. I can tell you that Fluffy appears to me to be a type of terrier. They need a lot of exercise. And to keep it trapped up in one small room comparative to like its size that's cruel. Okay, and I
Good.
never took Hagrid for being cruel, but to keep Fluffy in there is
Yeah, that's mean.
out of line.
And even if someone
three-headed
did,
dog.
like, yeah.
Go ahead, Zanib. Sorry.
Yeah,
Oh
I
no,
want to
like
hear your
even
thoughts
if
on
like
this one.
Hagrid took him for like walks, you know, around Hogwarts grounds, you'd think someone would notice, you know, even if it's like 3 a.m., the big paw print on the ground, or like, you know, someone barking, or like, you know, the big pee stain by the, you know, weeping willow or whatever. Yeah, I agree.
Poor Fluffy.
So Cerberus is the three-headed dog in
Yeah.
Greek mythology that guarded the gates to the underworld. So
Yeah.
that's what we've got in History of Magic, but that's the only mention of it. It doesn't say what actually happened, you know, who took Fluffy for walks. So
Yeah. I don't think anyone did. He was
Yeah.
just stuck up there.
Yeah, all by his lonesome. That's not cool.
And it's a weird thing. This doesn't really matter because it's just a little detail, but it's considered one being. Like its name is Fluffy, but there are 3 heads there. I would consider that almost like 3 different dogs.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're each going to have their own brain.
Right.
So they should have 3 different names. It should be Fluffy and something else for the other ones.
You only name a runespawn one thing, so you would not name Fluffy multiple things.
But
Well, in American Horror Story, what was it? Bet and Dot that Sarah Paulson plays in American Horror Story Freak Show was 2-headed, and they had 2 totally separate personalities and different
was
names.
it like
and all of
a
that.
Siamese twin kind of situation?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So
But the runespawn has 3 separate personalities, and usually one of them bites off the other 2 heads, and that's why they die. But they just still would have one name. Not that you would name it because they're a 5X creature and can't be domesticated.
Huh.
It's fine.
But also, aren't the runespawns, aren't they like snakes?
They're a
snakes?
3-headed snake, yeah. But why couldn't you have a pet snake?
But who cares about snakes? And we're talking about dogs. Dogs are better.
Salazar Slytherin.
Well, yeah.
touche, Lorena.
There's a basilisk coming next book. And I bet he's not running around much.
Yeah, but it's
All
a
right,
snake.
so let's get past this dog.
Okay.
Or
Okay.
dogs, if we want to go that direction.
Did anybody else want to scream during this chapter? This is the chapter where I was texting Lorena and Emily earlier about it, and you have all these really super powerful witches and wizards that are putting out all these magical traps to keep the Sorcerer's Stone protected. And a bunch of first years just blew through them. Like, it was no big deal. And so, you know, so knowing that these kids are all like really nosy about Fluffy and whatnot, and why would Hagrid give Harry a flute for Christmas? It seems like a terrible idea. He hand carved the flute, so it stands to reason that he would know how to carve something else.
Mhm.
Even if it was like a cube, Harry would have loved getting like a little box, hand carved box. I mean, he never got a Christmas gift before. So there's that. And then I don't know. I feel like there's something so, I don't have the word for it. You guys are going to have to help me out on this. Egotistical, stuck up, like short-sighted of all of these professors that they just didn't honestly think anybody could get through their traps.
Right.
Like,
Because like I was going to say, I really like the one that Snape did, the potions one. That's my favorite one. And I get why they cut it out of the movie, because it's not very cinematic to just watch someone stare at a table of potions until they figure it out. But at the same time, if an 11-year-old girl, no matter how smart she is, can figure this thing out in a couple minutes, it is not difficult enough for what you are trying to protect.
Yeah. Yeah. I 100% agree with that. I don't know. Zanib, what did you think of this chapter?
Yeah.
Well, you know, since we were talking about the flute, my whole question is, how in the hell did Harry have time between, you know, figuring out stuff about Nicholas Flamel and then just trying to catch Snape in the act, learn how to play the flute? It was so I don't know. You know what? It's like you kind of see him like developing as like this jock-ish character with, you know, like playing Quidditch, and then it's like he's playing the flute. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but it's like with the, you know, 11-year-old kid, where do you get the time? And having him play the flute when I was like 10, it's freaking hard.
Didn't it say that he pretty much just kind of like blasted some random notes into it? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I thought you had to play like, I don't know, like a nice
Right. I mean, I
lullaby.
would think you would have to play a song, but I don't think they do.
Okay, so I called best friend Kim and I said, what grade did Jacob, her son, who's now 13, have to play the recorder in school? And she said, oh, that was 4th grade, worst year of my life. Because Lorena and I were texting when we saw Zanib's comment. And she's like, because Harry went to Muggle primary school. And we're like, this is, so I'm going to say 4th grade, Harry had to bring home that stupid recorder and learn how to play some stupid little thing on that. So I called her to find out what year was that, because I'm like, was that 2nd grade? Was that 3rd grade? So even if it was just a little hot cross buns, doot, 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 he had to learn how to play that. And so he's like, screw it, I'm going to remember how to play this. He got his little flute out that he played from high. So it was just a little doot, 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 doot. You know, that's what I'm going to say.
I'll take it.
I
One
have
note
it
for Doghead.
I have it in the book, and it says he put Hagrid's flute to his lips and blew. It wasn't really a tune, but from the first note, the beast's eyes began to droop. So yeah, I think it was just sort of melodic sounding stuff, even if it was not a specific song. But you would think it would have to be songish enough to not wake up Fluffy.
Yeah, thank goodness that mirror concept existed, since clearly nothing else
Right. And I'm
to
gonna say,
get through.
right. Why do any of these other ones even exist? Like the mirror is kind of the perfect safeguard for it, because it has this super specific way that you can get the stone, and Dumbledore knows that that Quirrell, if he even suspects Quirrell at this point, like who knows exactly what he knows and when, but that most people who are going to be there to get it are going to be there because they want to use it, and so no one's going to be able to grab it. So why do this dumb crap with all like the keys and the fire and the chess? And I don't know, it just seems like a waste, especially considering a bunch of kids who've only been in magic school for a couple of months are able to get through these with relatively little trouble.
Though I will commend Hermione, who and Snape, because his challenge was not magical. It was very Muggle. It was very just straight logic. And this is like the first scene where, like, I'm not into this ship. I will just say that. But I can see where someone might want to ship Hermione and Snape as adults. We're gonna put it into legality there. I can see it in this scene, like, because she can finally, like, oh, Snape, like her brain and his brain are working in the same way. And I think, like, she doesn't, you know, like, obviously no, but I was like, okay, I can feel where the shippers.
That's not a reason to ship people just because they both have some sort of sense of logic. That's nonsense.
She could build empathy finally for that character. Not that he deserves it, but
he doesn't.
Like, she could.
I would read Centaur Erotica before I would read Hermione. Snape.
I did like the teamwork.
Yes, that's true.
Phenomenal teamwork there. Like, phenomenal. I have a question for the group on this one, guys. So the mirror, it was like up. I always think of it like in the attic. I don't know why, but like in my head, I'm like, it's in the attic at Hogwarts. So it's up in the attic and Harry's visiting it and Dumbledore catches him there. But then Dumbledore decides to move it. And so presumably that's when he moves it down to be part of the traps and or things to keep people away from the stone. Why didn't Dumbledore just put the mirror down there to begin with? Like, what was the whole point of letting Harry find the mirror? Because he clearly let Harry find the mirror. So what was the point of that?
I mean, maybe he just wanted to give him that experience of being able to see what his family looked like, because even though it was like a painful one, maybe like we knew, like you said, like he didn't have a picture or anything, and so this was the first real view he was going to get of it. And maybe this is the kind of thing, like you would think he wanted Harry to know how it worked, but why would he be factoring Harry in to the stone at all? He should not have been doing that whatsoever. Like, he is an 11-year-old kid. He should not be mixed up in this. But so yeah, I don't really know.
Unless it's like some prophecy that like Harry was the one to get the stone out of the mirror. I don't know. It's so weird. What do you guys think?
I thought he moved the mirror, like he didn't come up with the idea until like after Christmas, and then he was just like, this would be smart since all of the other protections are crap. Like, we probably should put something that will actually safeguard it.
Right, they get the stone, and Dumbledore's like, okay, we got to really protect this thing, you guys. Give me your best ideas for how we are going to protect the stone. And they all get back to him, and it's all crap. So he's like, oh, all right. Good job, guys. But I'm going to get the mirror.
They've all failed. Harry has passed every one of them, and we need to fix that now. So.
But, like, also, where is the stone, actually? Like, in time and space, before it ends up in Harry's pocket.
It literally just falls into his pocket.
Right,
but where is it hanging out?
Magic, guys!
I know, but still.
Is it a pocket universe? Get it? Pocket universe?
There is some sort of logic to a lot of the magic that happens, and I'm just wondering. That's just occurring to me right now. Where it
I assumed it was like in the mirror, and I felt like Dumbledore could have left it at its original place, and the stone would still land in Harry's pocket because he wanted to search for it, not use it. So I found that bit kind of weird.
Oh, this book. You never realize, like, when I read this book the first time, like years and years and years ago, that I was just like, oh, this is so cool. Look at all the different jelly beans and little dragons. And now I'm just like, wait a minute.
Before we go on, before we get to the trapdoor, they're all underneath the invisibility cloak, and Peeves is there. And I just had to bring this up because I was like, oh, yes. And Harry starts to imitate the Bloody Baron and scares Peeves. And I was laughing so hard at that. I was like, oh, I really, we talk about how the movies missed out on the centaurs. Doing that, I am like, here's another part where Peeves, it would have been so funny to see Peeves scared by Harry underneath the cloak after all the trouble that Peeves had given them throughout this book, and then to see him scared by the kids under the cloak. I'm just like, oh, Peeves.
Yeah, it's like Harry has these odd moments of like brilliance at these random parts throughout the series. Like, a lot of times he does stuff pretty impulsively, doesn't really seem to think it through, and then every once in a while he comes up with an idea like this. It's just like amazing and out of nowhere.
Yes, absolutely. I don't know, I wish that there's a part of me that wishes they had included Peeves in the movie, but then also at the same point I'm like, if maybe they like were pressed on time and also were like, it's probably going to irritate the parents, listening to this poltergeist. I don't know, but it's fun.
You get why they don't have him in there, but I would still liked to.
Absolutely. So if we're all in agreement, I say we move on to chapter 17, The Man with Two Faces. The last
really quickly from History of Magic class.
Here we go.
All right.
in History of Magic, you actually have a copy of J.K. Rowling's handwritten pages from the book where she starts the chapter, and it just is really interesting seeing how she wrote it out the first little bit. So I don't know.
Oh yeah.
It's just, you know, how she started it, what she drew lines through, and it's just like, okay, here it is. This was the early draft, and most of the dialogue appears here, remains the same, but there was a defiant line that Harry was given. You haven't got the stone yet. Dumbledore will be here soon. He'll stop you. So he was trying to say that Dumbledore was going to come save the day, and that didn't happen. So he was trying to do that. So that was one little thing from the history of J.K. Rowling, History of Magic.
I love it. That's
Thank
so
you for
cool.
attending the History of Magic lecture.
As
See,
long as
my classes would be fun.
Is there a pop quiz? Did I need to take down notes? Because
I feel like they probably don't have to pay Professor Binns because he's a ghost. So what does he need money for? They're getting a free teacher by having a ghost teach a class. It's unfair.
Yeah,
I will say I'm taking that into account into a fan fiction that I'm going to write. So that he's not using his professor's quarters, and he's not using he's not getting paid. So yes,
there you go. I like this.
Carry on. The man with two faces.
The man with two faces. So I liked this chapter. A lot happens in this one little chapter. So Cue Ball says it here when he says, Severus seems the type, doesn't he? Because, you know, Harry really thought that it was Snape doing all of this. And this is when he finds out that it's not, it's Quirrell. And the biggest reason for this is because Snape is such a giant turd to Harry for literally no reason at all. And if he wasn't such a turd, Harry would have never gotten a bug up his butt about investigating him so much. And then he wouldn't have gone down there and be in a position to lose the stone to Cue Ball. So I love the fact that because Harry went down there and got the stone from the mirror, that the only thing that saved them all from Voldemort getting a hold of it was Harry's mom's love. That was a really cool concept, but like, there is like this really big thing that hit me with reading this chapter today, which is if Snape wasn't such a dick, Harry would have never been cued off. He never would have gotten anything. All of this would have happened in the natural course that it was going to happen in, and literally nothing, like it would have all ended the same way, right? Because Quirrell would have never gotten the stone either way. So I don't know, like this chapter was a fascinating one to me. I really loved it, and then it also bothered me in some places. But
well, on that subject,
yeah.
One of the things Dumbledore says later is that one of the reasons Snape is so like bitter towards James is because one time James saved Snape's life, and I am totally blanking on when that occasion was. I don't know if anybody remembers, but I was trying to think of it, and I don't know what it is.
Is it when he was being see, I don't remember if it was James doing the bullying when they like raised him up in the air by like his leg or whatever.
James did that.
So that was James.
Right.
No, so I read something today, and I don't know if it's true. It was on like Tumblr. And I think it's from when they like he finds out that Remus is a werewolf or like something like that. Or they're like showing him, they're trying to like include him in like to make fun of him basically. And then he almost gets attacked by Remus when he's in his werewolf form. And James is the one to like get him out of the way.
Okay.
So, but I don't know.
Yeah.
My Rachel is furiously texting. Yes, so I will let you know because she is the truth. She is the book.
Yay, Rachel.
I'm assuming it's
she
one of those
says-
things that we
she
would come
just
across.
read book 3, so I think it's to do with the Whomping Willow.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
she says it's when Sirius tries to get him to go down the tunnel to see Remus Lupin.
Okay.
And so yeah, it is that moment,
Okay.
and then James shows up, I guess, knowing what's really there, and is like, "Hey, this is not something you want to be doing. Let me get you out of werewolf harm way.
Okay.
Even though we don't like you because you're trying to bang my future wife, you know, even like, I don't know how old they are when that happens."
It's
Okay.
But even
weird.
if Snape and James were enemies, that's still no consolation for you, like hating on this poor 11-year-old
there's
kid who
no-
did
Oh, yeah.
nothing. I just
Yeah.
thought that was just messed up, and it's like, grow up, come on.
Yeah. Like the fact that, like, I don't know, you have this kid that's literally been abused his entire life. And Snape has to know that, right? Like, he is in on all of the things. So you feel like he at least has to have some sort of prior knowledge that Harry hasn't had this wonderful Malfoy-like existence where he gets all the things and has like a really pampered lifestyle with parents that love him. So you just would imagine that he would have at least one little shred of empathy and not just be like, well, James saved my life, so I have to try to save Harry's life, but I'm going to be super pissed off and immature and a douchebag about it the entire time. Like, that to me is just, I don't know. It's
Yeah,
Oh.
Snape's a bitch. He just is. Although I have to
grow
say,
up.
yeah, Zanib, you have a note in here about Quirrell deciding how he was going to sleep. And I thought that was hysterical because you can't sleep like face down, but then you have Voldemort on the back of your head. That's one of those details, like Fred and George throwing the snowballs, that I thought was hilarious.
Yeah, rereading this part, I couldn't help but to think, like, the level of awkwardness between Voldemort and Quirrell, like, going to the bathroom and, like, brushing your teeth and just, like, 24/7 having this parasite. Like, what do you do? Like, it must have done something to his psyche. He must have lost his mind or something.
Okay, I've got 2 thoughts on this. Have you guys seen a Harry Potter musical? Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
I've heard of it. I have not. I've seen pieces of it. I have not seen the
Okay.
entire thing.
Lara
It's
or
on
Lorena?
YouTube, yeah.
That's not the Dumbledore. That's not Ron
No,
Weasley.
that's
Okay.
Potter Puppet Pals.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
So this is one of the things that Darren Criss sort of got his start in. He and his friends wrote this while they were at the University of Michigan when they were in college. And when they do Quirrell, they have another guy that's like on his back and they walk around like this. For anybody else who's watching, I'll post the link in the YouTube comments so you can do this. But I mean, I bought the soundtrack to it. It's hysterical. It's a musical. I mean, it's Darren Criss, Glee, Assassination of Gianni Versace. I mean, the guy can sing. We know this. That they do some hysterical things. So they sort of address that too, and how they're going to sleep. And they have this thing where they're trying to figure out how Voldemort and Quirrell are going to sleep when they try to go to bed. And, they're having a symbiotic relationship themselves. So there's that. But there's the other thing I wanted to say was actually more in the book, not this fake world out there. Quirrell said that he met Voldemort on his travels when he was traveling the world. I want to know how Quirrell met him and like what was that moment? How did he know and then absorb him, get him on the back of his head and everything like this? Like, how did this happen? And like suddenly the Azorbaloft and get him on his, suck him onto that. Like, what was that? So that's what I want to know is how did that suddenly happen? So
I think I remember reading somewhere, I can't remember where, maybe it was an article or Pottermore, where I think you get details of their first interaction. So Quirrell before was like very meek, vulnerable, kind of like a toady character. And I think at the end, he wanted that power and that respect of like being an authoritative figure. But I can't remember where. I'm going to have to look it up.
I remember that too. I think it might be more.
I pulled it up. This is just the wiki where they pull stuff from all kinds of places. And under Lord Voldemort recounts his meeting with Quirrell, it says, Voldemort said that a wizard, young, foolish, and gullible, wandered across my path in the forest I had made my home. So was it literally just chance? He just like happened to come across him?
Well, wasn't he hunting vampires?
I mean, right, but I mean, it was just, I guess Quirrell just happened to wander near to where Voldemort was when Quirrell was out on his travels.
And in what state, like, would Voldemort be in at that point? Like, is he some type of, like, tiny little slug?
Right, like, he doesn't have a body, really? He's just, I don't know.
Right. There's a lot of...
Yeah, I think he's just, like, a partial soul at this point. And so when he latches on, you know, the turban may not even be necessary at the beginning. And then, you know, as he feeds off of Quirrell, he becomes stronger, and then he starts drinking the unicorn blood and becomes even more stronger, more of a body type. That I just think that's like, as he's basically consuming Quirrell as to become a life form again. But yeah, it's weird.
And when they're drinking the unicorn blood, was it Quirrell whose mouth was doing that, or was it Voldemort's? And because like that would have been like killer on Quirrell's back if he had to like
you're like splayed out.
I know you'd have to
it's
go, like,
Voldemort, yeah,
backwards.
I mean, at that point, I don't know if Quirrell's even like existing. Like,
I don't know. I always assumed that it was Quirrell, but maybe it's not.
No, I think it's Voldemort because he's like hooded. You can't see his face, kind of like how you can't see a Dementor, really.
Huh.
That was how I understood it.
But when I just was, because I'm listening to it on audiobook, and it said, he said he had me drink the unicorn blood. So Quirrell says he drank it. So, but I mean, I don't know. It's ambiguous.
Yeah. In this same Harry Potter thing, and again, who knows? There's a picture, and it says Quirrell drinking unicorn blood in place of his master.
Okay, but, so sorry, I was wrong.
But I don't know.
No,
like,
I was thinking the same
what
thing.
People are assuming. I don't know. It might still be up in the air, but I thought Quirrell did it.
Yeah, I don't know. That's weird. I have a thought about this book, and I'd like to hear what you guys think before we absolutely run out of time, because we're pretty dang close.
Yeah.
So my last thought here is this. If Harry never went to Hogwarts, like, at all, say the Dursleys were successful in keeping the owls from getting to him and all that stuff, I don't think it would have changed anything. At least in this book. Like, I don't think Harry being at Hogwarts made any difference to, like, the history of what happened that semester in Hogwarts. I think Quirrell still would have been there. He still would have tried to get the stone, and he still would have been unsuccessful in retrieving it. If anything, maybe Harry not being there would have made it even easier for Quirrell to be found out and to have the stone be even safer. But I'd like to know what you guys think. Do you agree with my hypothesis that if Harry never went...
Do you mean just in terms of plot?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, if Harry had never gone, the plot would have never, like, it would have all, like, the main plot points, nothing would have changed. It wouldn't have made a difference in the end. I don't think Harry being there made any difference.
No, I disagree, because I think Snape would have caught Quirrell quicker because he wouldn't have the distraction of Harry.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
and
it wouldn't...
think Dumbledore would have... Well, I think it would have made a difference that they would have been able to actually get rid of Voldemort because they would have captured him.
Okay, that's a good point. But they said that Voldemort can't die.
Right.
Voldemort because he's not human enough to die.
I didn't say they were going to kill him. I just said they were going to capture him.
Okay, fair enough. That's a fair point.
They can put him under the invisibility cloak.
There's a thing
but he's not going to stay there. He's like some weird slug-like thing that can latch on. He could latch on to Filch or Mrs. Norris. Could you imagine?
there's a thing on Tumblr that says, I wonder what's happening at Hogwarts right now. And they're like, probably getting their education since
Right.
Harry doesn't go
Learning
there anymore.
is happening. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's probably, I think for the most part, you're right, Laura. I think the only thing is that maybe they would have, at least for a time, captured Voldemort and held on to him because they would have, you know, Quirrell would not have been destroyed by Harry's, you know, love burns or whatever those things were. And so they could have gotten a hold of him. But other than that,
well, I think Draco
Yeah.
would have been different as well, because Draco was really pushed by Harry being there, and like Draco would have been all attention would have gone to him as a Malfoy, and Harry really stole his thunder. So I think that the outcome of kind of that Malfoy line would have been different, and Draco would be a different person than, like, he wouldn't have changed in the same way he does throughout the whole series if Harry never went to
More
Hogwarts.
popular, you know, like not having Harry there and to feel that rejection of, you know, in front of everybody. So
Yeah, like only Hermione would be an issue for him at that point, because she's better than him in every class. So
Yeah.
An issue or something else.
this isn't fanfic.
I have to say, I totally get Hermione Draco. I am behind it. I totally get where that comes from.
I could ship that.
I get it. I could ship it. But some of these other things, I don't know.
Well, I'm gonna get back to you on the centaur porn. I'll let you know.
It's the worst one. Snarry for me. I can't.
Wait,
I can't do Snarry.
No.
Who's Snape?
Snape and Harry. That's so problematic to me.
That is,
But
Hermione
and Snape is not problematic.
I said I don't ship that. I was saying, like, I can see where you might for that. But with Snape, it's just like weird.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't get Hermione Snape either. I don't get anyone with Snape. I don't even get Lily Snape.
No.
So,
Yeah,
It's
no.
the worst. He deserves no one.
Yeah. One final shout out before we finish up this book in total, and that is to Neville Longbottom. Shout out, Neville.
Yes.
Because you're the true hero. And I know, like, in the end of the series, he gets a lot of, you know, acclaim and everything. But I just want to say, even as far back as this first book, Neville is out there doing the damn thing. And even being terrified as he was, he still did the right thing.
That's why he's in Gryffindor, because
That's right.
he has a different, quieter kind of bravery. But
Absolutely.
but he's there.
So
all right, well, Sorcerer's Stone, I'm going to say no, because we pretty much spent the last 3 episodes complaining about it. But now that we're done, was Sorcerer's Stone, is that anyone's favorite of the series?
No.
No?
No.
Okay, because it's not mine.
I don't think it ever was.
No.
Yeah.
No.
The only thing about the Sorcerer's Stone that it stands apart to me is the fact that we're introduced to the magical world, and there is, like, that first time you read it, no matter your age, you're just like, oh, the candy and the magic and going to Diagon Alley and all of that stuff is so magical and amazing. And the first time you read it, the visions that you get in your head are so cool. And so for that, it'll always have a special place in my heart. But honestly, no, it's a hard pass for me. So.
All right. Well, we made it through. And we're going to start with Chamber of Secrets next, which, Lorena, you have never read before.
I still can't believe
That's true. No, I haven't. And I'm actually wondering if I've read Prisoner of Azkaban, because I feel like I would have remembered that sequence with James. I don't remember any of the flashback Marauder stuff. And I feel like that's when it really kind of starts, is book 3. And yeah, I don't think I've read book 3. I think Rachel told me about Crookshanks, what I needed to know, and was like, watch the movie, and Crookshanks can tell bad and good in people, and that's all you need to know for future books, and go forth and read book 4. So yeah, I think I haven't read book 3 now that I really think about it.
Well, then this is going to be a very exciting couple episodes for you, because you're going to be. We get Gilderoy Lockhart,
Yeah.
which I love Gilderoy Lockhart because
Like
he
the Board
is
of
the worst.
Governors. I don't even know what this is. Everyone's like, oh, the Board of Governors, and Lucius Malfoy's on it, and let's write a whole fanfic about it. Yeah, cool. And I'm like, when was this introduced in the books? Like, I don't even know what this is.
Yes.
Clearly, I missed quite a bit. So
Yeah.
I have not read book 2 in forever either, so this one's going to be a fun one as well.
No, literally forever for me.
Yeah. And chapters 1 through 5, it's the beginning of the book, and it takes us through the Whomping Willow chapter. So
the car scene.
Yeah, when Harry and Ron are total dumbasses and decide to fly the car to school instead of just waiting for the Weasleys to come out.
Like a bunch of teenage boys.
Yes.
Taking the car out for a joyride.
Some Gryffindor foolishness.
Absolutely. So, all right, friends, family, people that have watched us, we greatly appreciate it. And we appreciate your thoughts, feelings, and questions. So if you have any extras that you'd like for us to know about, leave them in the comments section below for our YouTube video, and we will get to them. We will talk to you in chat, unless this is like 5 years from now, in which case that's probably not going to happen. But, you know, you could try. Meanwhile, we'll be back with Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. We don't have a date on that yet, but we will get back to you on that.
Right.
Well,
So
let's talk about that.
I don't even have the book. So
that's right. You don't have your copy, so who knows when it's going to be.
my library is under construction right now.
Oh, no.
But we are going to get there, and we're going to give you guys a date. So just keep an eye on our socials, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all that good stuff. We will let you know when we're coming back, and we'll have you prepared for it. So in the meantime, we hope you all have a great start to the new year, and we hope that you had a fun time listening to us and watching us and chatting with us about this fantastic story. So take care. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Knox.